Top 5 things Kansas must do to win the Big 12. I tell you, these things are getting harder and harder.
No, they're not. I think they should get easier because the lower you go, that means the more they need.
Yeah, but some of it's just not like realistic. I don't want to sound like a doofus for saying some of this stuff. So, anyway, I digress. Top 5 things Kansas must do to win the Big 12. Number 5, play with confidence again. The difference between Kansas last year and Kansas in many previous years is this was a team that from the very beginning of the year played with confidence. They felt they could win every single game. Whether it was true or not, but they believed it. They believed in themselves, and they had that attitude on the field. That's what Lance Leipold installed in them, and they rolled through it. Until Jalen Daniels got hurt. I mean, when you start out and you're bowl eligible before some of the other teams in the conference that were obviously going to be, and you hadn't been for so long, you played with a lot of confidence. Now, they're not going to sneak up on anybody this year, but if they can still play with that same confidence, that's what's going to take them far.
I don't know if any team, and it doesn't mean they had a swagger, but I don't know of any group of players who were at Big 12 Media Days who enjoyed it more and were also very confident in who they were.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's to be expected, though, guys. I mean, let's not forget where they've been the last few years. They were not just the worst team in the Big 12. They were the worst team, arguably, in college football. I mean, completely incompetent. Les Miles just decided to take what was already kind of halfway in the ground and just bury it even further with his actions. And, it would be hard not to be more optimistic, quite frankly, if you're Kansas fan and then seeing what unfolded at the start of last year. But because of Jalen Daniels, there's a reason to believe that it's more than just a fluke. There's actual real confidence behind it because of him being back, and you can start there and then trickle down effect to others. But I mean, I think it all starts with him. I mean, really it begins with Lance Leipold, but the fact that you've got a dynamic, super talented alpha dog type of leader there at the most important position, I think that just goes throughout the team, and I'd imagine with him back under center or shotgun or however they use him, they're going to play with confidence again because it's going to emanate directly from that spot, and I think it's probably already affected a few others as well. So, they're definitely going to be confident.
I am so disappointed we didn't get a chance to speak with him and or Jalen Daniels. There was a couple of times I tried to get Daniels off to the side. It was always a reason we couldn't because they were around. I mean, they were around as much as anybody. And I just think Lance Leipold has this look on him, that old-school coach look. He might be very modernized, but I'd love to have a chance to visit with him. Kind of like a more serious version, not that Chris Kleiman's not serious, of Chris Kleiman.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, go on a long winning streak. I don't think that Kansas is going to win this. Look, 9-3 probably could have a reasonable shot at getting you in the Big 12 title game again, but I don't think they're going to do it if they win 2, lose 1, win 3, lose 1. I think they need to, 5 or 6 game winning streak they went on last year, that needs to be like 8 games or so. They really need to roll through it because they do have some depth deficiencies and things that'll go on, which kind of goes on. So, I don't think that they're going to be able to do it, piecing it together throughout the season. I think they need to kind of rattle it off, start out the year, and just roll through, and then they've got a shot. I don't think they can maybe do it how some teams might be able to kind of fight their way out of a slump. I don't think Kansas is built that way yet. I think they need to kind of roll through when it starts.
Well, they have Illinois in week 2.
To be tough.
And that will be interesting because Bielema has done a nice job with the Fighting Illini, but that'll be a nice matchup. And it's not like, they can't win that game. Sure they can. And then they start off with Brigham Young at home, and then they have Texas, UCF, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Iowa State, Tech, K-State, and Cincinnati. So they've got some of the ones who are picked near the top with Kansas State, Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas Tech among the leading vote getters as far as the media poll, if that means anything.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to put any streaks together unless it's at the very beginning. I could see them doing it there, but beyond that, I don't see them going on runs and beating like Oklahoma and then Oklahoma State and then beating who would follow that, Baylor in between there. I mean, in theory they could, but bookmarked by Tech and it's just where the 3-4 games going to come into play. I don't see it, but I can see a start to the year where they win a bunch of games. No, that was last year. Sorry, that Tech TCU. The beginning, I still maintain exactly what I said. Illinois will be tough, but you could see them getting a win over Missouri State, a win over Illinois at home, a win over Nevada. That's 3-0 right there. BYU right out of the gates at home. That's 4-0. I could see that. Beyond that, it's harder to see because just the chain of teams. Are you going to go beat Texas? And then, beat UCF, then the Oklahoma. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, if they're going to have a streak, it's going to probably be there at the very beginning. And if it's beyond that, then holy cow, they're probably making a whole lot of noise in the whole, grand scheme of things.
Can you imagine with the hype right now and the expectations this year with Texas, if in fact KU does it again at the end of September? One of the best things about their schedule, this may not sound, they don't play Baylor. Baylor has won 13 straight against Kansas and have beaten them up a lot during that time. One of the closest games when RG3 brought Baylor back from way down in the Heisman Trophy year, but they have beaten Kansas up quite a bit. They're not on their schedule.
Yeah, it's bad news for Baylor. I mean, Baylor got a lot of good news on their schedule. They had 8 home games, for crying out loud. But they don't have to go to, they don't play Oklahoma, all that. But, that was probably the one thing of bad news is the one team that you have a really legit long winning streak against, you don't get to play them this year, Baylor. Number 3, hold leads better. And we'll talk about the defense in a second. I know this is a big part of it, but I do think because the defense is probably going to be a little better. I don't know if they have the players to be legit, like way, way better. But I do think that means that to do that, like even if you don't get a stop, that if you don't get a stop, you got to respond with a score almost every time because that's how their offense is going to have to run. So you can't, have those things where you have all of a sudden you've got this 17 or 21 point lead and it evaporates. Like if you've got a 21 point lead, you better keep it at 21. You better, if they score, it's 21-7, you better make it 28-7 right after that to give that defense a little bit of a break. And we will talk about the defense in a second.
Well, I think maybe we should go ahead and get to that because I think that they go hand in hand together. Is the kind of the similar response that I would have to both of them.
All right, so number 2 is keep Jalen Daniels healthy. Look, when he went down last year, that's when
That's not number 1.
No, you'll see what number.
Okay.
Keep Jalen Daniels healthy. And these might be 1 and 1A together, but they got to keep him healthy. When he was healthy last year, they're absolutely in every game. He is such a fantastic gamer. He is so fun to watch late in games. And when you are going to be playing close games in the Big 12, like everybody pretty much will be, you want a guy who can make the plays. We were asked a couple weeks ago in the chat room, or maybe it was last week, if everything's equal on a team, which quarterback would you want 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter
to drive 70 yards for a touchdown?
Mine would be Jalen Daniels.
Yeah, I mean,
you want 2 minutes left and him to do it. If you're talking everything equal, across the board, I want Jalen Daniels.
He also can get you some yards and scramble and keep a drive alive with that too.
Yeah. So, and number 1, play a lot more D. They're going to have to do that a lot better. That goes hand in hand with, holding the leads and all that. But they've got to do a lot better on defense where you don't just jump out to these big leads and then all of a sudden you're in a game. Your defense needs to assert its authority, and it needs to be able to say, like, yes, it is 21-0, and we will stay at this point for a little while. So they were not able to do that when they got into the meat and potatoes of the conference, even though they did wind up in a bowl game last year. That was their big problem. They've got to get better on that side of the ball. They've got some promising things happening over there, but it's really tough, even in the transfer portal era, just to go from, kind of an adventure on defense to someone who is lethal in a year.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I kind of look at 3 and 1 as sort of the same thing, just because they're kind of dealing with the same mindset and the same angle of just, you got to help out your offense, right? I mean, your offense appears like it's going to be pretty good once again, and you've got the guy who makes it all happen back and healthy and ready to go, and some more veterans alongside of him that now have another year in the system, and not to mention all the tweaks that you made during the offseason and the incoming guys. So, I mean, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about what they can do as far as their ability to score points. But, their defense was just not very good. And that's why I'm not sitting there putting them up at the top of the Big 12 is because I need to see a little bit more of an improvement there. Last year to this year is not a completely black and white comparison because a lot of different things have changed. But outside of their opener against Iowa State, which was a 14-11 game, and it was 14-11 as much probably because of Iowa State's style as anything else, because they seem to play a lot of games like that. But you gave up 38 to TCU. That's actually kind of respectable against them. 52 to Oklahoma, 35 to Baylor. You beat Oklahoma State 37-16. There's obviously some things going on in Stillwater at that point, but gave up 43 to Tech, 55 to Texas, 47 to K-State, 55 and 3 overtimes to Arkansas. So, like, past that Iowa State game and then just the Oklahoma State outlier when we know they weren't operating at full strength, that's bad defense. That's way too many points to be able to go where you want to go. So, yeah, I think it kind of goes without saying that people are confident in them because of the quarterback and the coach and some of the weapons. But if you're hesitant, it's probably revolving around that defense and the fact that they have a lot of room for improvement.
All right, Paul, Kansas, I'm so glad you were motivated to continue all the way through the media